This right here is a 1995 BMW M3 that we bought approximately 2 years ago, sight unseen from Copart. This was before they went up ridiculously in value. Right now, they are so expensive. But the car sat for 2 years. We moved to the Carolinas in the meantime, and the main reason it actually sat for 2 years was because it was not at all what I expected. You know, sometimes it always looks better in pictures, and that was the case for this. And that disappointment just made me very questionable on what I wanted to do with the car. But recently, I started watching Roadkill again, and that just sparked my joy for adventure. So without any planning, spending a lot of money, or trying to make this car right, we're just going to quickly get it running and driving so we can begin our Euro venture. Let's try to push it. It's been here for a couple years. Not really a couple years, it's been here for about a year. Let's see if we can push it out. It's muddy in the back.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, this thing is hot.
Oh shit, what's behind it? I don't want to hit that either.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of bugs. All right, 3, 2, 1.
I didn't think this was this heavy.
Damn. Shit.
Let it roll back a little bit and then push again. I'm sliding over here.
3, 2, 1. Shit.
3, 2, 1.
No, it's heavy and it's uphill.
Yeah, come on, babe. Ready, set, go.
No.
Who said you did all the work? All right, let's get a quick condition report. We kind of took out all the stuff that we had put in here when we first moved over here, but we got all that stuff out. It's not looking too good. So yeah, there were some mice living in here. Hopefully it was just one, but it looks like there's a lot. There's a lot of mouse poop everywhere. There's a lot of dust everywhere. The dust is probably from, we had like all the seats and stuff covered with this carpet material. That way, you know, when it's sitting in the sun, it doesn't really get too sun damaged. And it did its job, but it put this whole coating of dust everywhere. So I think we're just gonna vacuum all this stuff up. So I had initially thought I was gonna pull the M3 in, just start wrenching on it. I'm so glad we didn't do that. Pressure washed all this, emptied all this stuff out. Now we're just gonna vacuum everything, wipe everything down, try to disinfect it a little bit with all the mouse poop and pee, and then we still gotta figure out how we're gonna get it in the shop. Obviously, the car doesn't run. We had to push it from there to here. Now we had to push it up this ramp into the shop. And not sure how we're gonna do that yet, but we're about to figure it out. But first, let's clean this up a little bit. I'm not sitting in there. So here's the situation. I don't know if this car runs, doesn't even have a battery, but before I really try to, put a battery in and try to start the car up, I want to, get it up on the lift and just make sure there's no other hidden surprises underneath. So the hood strut is broken. It's actually missing one hood strut, but let me prop this up so I can check all the fluids, make sure, there's oil and power steering fluid, coolant, all that stuff in here before we go underneath the car. All right, you know what? We're gonna use this bar of gold as our hood prop. All right, let's check some fluids. Let's see how everything looks. We're taking bets on if there's oil in here. I really hope the oil is clear though, not milkshaked up. Oh, this oil is actually looks pretty good. I mean, yeah, it's old, it's been sitting forever. It's a little thin, but no milkshake. Win. Now, coolant. All right, let's see. This cap might need to be replaced. There's a lot of stuff that's unplugged. Ooh, low on coolant. She smells. Smells a little funky. That could just be from the coolant sitting. We'll know more once we turn it on. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff unplugged that I'm seeing here, like sensors. Like here's the sensor on the side of the radiator that's unplugged. We've got this connector down here that's unplugged. But for the most part, it's not too bad. All this water and stuff is from me pressure washing all this. So that's not a big deal. Probably wasn't a good idea to pressure wash all this with all this disconnected. And actually the DME cover was also unhooked. It wasn't even bolted in. And I just went at it because there was wasp and stuff flying out of it. I didn't want to get stung, so I just started with the pressure washer. But then I went ahead and put that cover on before I continued pressure washing. And I also covered up this intake because we don't want any water going in here. But this intake was wide open this whole time that the car's been sitting. No filter on it. So that's one more thing I might want to do before I try to turn it on. Remove this whole intake boot, clean all that up, make sure there's nothing, no other wasp nest or anything built up in there. But it did come with a K&N cold air intake. All right, let's lift the car up and see what other goodies we got on this score. What was that? Sounded like the jack fell off. Oh, it's the springs on the rear. No, I didn't know you had put it there. Just one of our filming lights. Second one actually that we broke. This one didn't shatter, so hopefully it still works. First time on the lift, here goes nothing. All right, watch out for spider webs while you're coming in here. All right, so we knew the exhaust was all cut up. Not sure why. So it's cut on this side right here, and it's also cut in the back where the muffler is. So I'm not sure why they cut it. I just had it bungee tied, bungee corded. That way it doesn't drag on the floor everywhere. And you know, I actually tried to pressure wash all this stuff down here, but obviously I didn't do such a good job. Okay, right off the bat, I do see coilovers in the back with new or newish Sachs shocks. We've got braided stainless steel lines. That's always a good sign to see that someone's actually taking care of the brakes. It could also mean that they tracked the car. We're not sure exactly which one, but we will see once we start driving it. There is a little bit of rust, just surface rust, not too bad. But, I mean, for the most part, I'm surprised. I mean, it's actually looking not bad. Hopefully I can find this exhaust or figure out a way to fix it or take it to a muffler shop to fix it over the next couple of days. That's gonna be pretty tight. Oh, there is a lot of corrosion on this drive shaft, which means that it's been rubbing somewhere. But the shifter, the linkage, all that is hooked up. Oh, all this is torn up. Not sure why that would be torn up. And as always, it's a BMW, so a lot of built up, caked up oil and sludge everywhere. Why is there's a gap between the transmission and the oil pan? So the transmission is sitting on this actual support bar. Who takes out the bolts out of a transmission? Who cuts up the exhaust? And who takes apart all of that intake stuff up there at a salvage yard? Because on the listing, when we first bought the car at Copart, it said that the car ran when it arrived at the lot. So all this stuff was done on the lot? That is so weird. Like, that is really disturbing. I'm not even sure if I could really turn the car on at this point because that was the plan. We got to first get it running. I'm not even sure why. Like, I really don't know. You know what? All this stuff, yeah, that scares me a little bit, but you know what actually scares me even more? All these spiders. There's literally, and that's the main reason I wanted to pressure wash, to try to get all these spiders off. Yeah, I don't know if this roadkill stuff is for me. Mouse poop first, all these spiders. But a good thing is it's got offset control arm bushings, which are actually in pretty good condition. Stainless brake lines, obviously, because they were in the back. They should be in the front too. Yeah, so I think like the only thing that really worries me, there is a little bit of leaking from the power steering pump, but that's whatever. We can just keep topping it up. Oh, this power steering pressure line has been crushed in, probably from those forks at Copart. All right, so for the most part, clean bill of health, except for this transmission. So, you know what, I think I'm just gonna risk it. I wanna really try to turn the car on. I wanna make sure that the engine runs before we start messing with all of this. And the way it's looking right now, all of these covers and everything is just like laying on top of the transmission. So it's all touching the flex joint, all of that. The drive shaft is getting rubbed on somewhere as well. So I think what we're gonna do is get the engine running first. I'll just make sure the car's in neutral and I'll keep the clutch pressed in the whole time and just make sure the engine runs. Once we have that confirmed, then we will pull off this transmission. Chances are what I'm thinking is probably the clutch went out, because I know on the Copart listing it said there was mechanical damage. So I'm assuming that the clutch went out, somebody started doing the job, and I guess they just quit, or who knows what happened. But gotta get this exhaust off. We might as well just cut it if we can't get the bolts out from up there, because the rest of it's cut. So let's get the car back down, hook up a battery, and maybe we'll be lucky today and the car will just fire right up. Let's check the intake boot, make sure there's no mice in here before we start it up. All of that is clear. Nice and clear all the way through. All right, final step before we could try to turn it on. I already had this battery charging up overnight, so hopefully it's got enough charge. Oh, and the key's in the ignition. All right, so the fan's running like constantly. I wonder why. I think it might have to do something with all the stuff that was unplugged. I think that temperature sensor's unplugged, and the reason all that stuff is on because the key is actually in accessory mode. So let's see if we can get that to turn off, and then let's try to start the car up. Oh, so somebody's actually jumpered this right here, so that way it stays on all the time. There we go. But I wonder why they did that. I know there's no fan, like mechanical fan right here. There is a shroud, but there's no mechanical fan. So probably they had the mechanical fan deleted, and which is why they have this one running all the time. But if I plug it in right here, nope. That is not where it goes. Or does it? There's some water in there. You know what? I don't think we're gonna need this right now. So I think all the pins are messed up in that temperature sensor. We're not gonna need that right now for the startup. So let's just get on it and let's see how our luck is today. I'm actually scared to push the clutch in because you saw how like the whole transmission was separated. But I think I'm gonna have to push that clutch in order for it to bypass the switch so we can actually turn it on. But first I'm gonna try to do it without pressing the clutch. It's in neutral. All right, here it goes. It's cranking. I don't hear the fuel pump running or anything. Yeah, no fuel pump. All right, let me try pushing the clutch in. Ooh, that was not good. That felt really weird, like almost like it popped. And I can see every time I push the clutch in, the whole gear stick, everything is moving. Is the engine moving when I push the clutch in? Yeah, the whole engine's moving when I push the clutch in. All right, let's try this one more time. Oh, I know why. I forgot to plug in the MAF sensor. All right, now let's try this again. All right, I'm not gonna push the clutch in because it was cranking without it, so maybe it'll still be okay. Let's see. It sounds so weird, like, sounds like it's rubbing on something. Maybe I shouldn't keep trying to turn it on. And the battery's dead. right, let's try it again. All right, now we've got jumper cables attached. Let's see what happens. Still nothing. I don't hear the fuel pump running at all. So I jumpered the fuel pump relay to get the fuel flowing, and then I took the jumper back off and put the fuel pump, another fuel pump relay on there. So it might turn on, probably just turn on for a little bit and then cut off, but we'll see what happens. All right, I think we're gonna need some more juice on the battery. Okay, all right, so now we got a battery charger hooked up. Let's see what happens. Still needs to charge up some more. All right, we got the battery charged up. Let's see if it turns on this time. And I also moved the jumper battery to the front to go directly to the starter. Whew, fingers crossed. And even if it does turn on, I'm gonna turn it off right away because that transmission is not attached. So I don't want it, eating anything else up or chewing anything else up inside the bell housing. So we're just gonna quickly see if the engine runs and then we'll turn it back off. All right, ready? We got the fuel primed, everything should be good. It runs. All right, the battery light is on for some reason. And no more weird noise. Oh, it runs and it stayed running. Wow. Only thing is, I don't know why the battery light stayed running. Hopefully it's just because the battery is almost dead. We can deal with all that later. Engine runs, that's all I care about. Now we can finally start tearing everything apart. Let's do it. So the transmission's already pretty much unhooked, but we have a lot of other stuff we gotta take off before we can pull the transmission off. I will check back in with you on every spider bite and any other issues that we come across. But for right now, all the stuff's cut, so we're just gonna start tearing it off as quickly as we can. Let's do it. Okay, that's one. Dang, this thing is completely broken off. Look at all this. We're gonna have to get new muffler mounts. Hopefully, we can source a used muffler or a used exhaust system from the headers back. That way we don't have to worry about trying to fix all of this. Don't worry about that. Go towards the back. Is it dead?
Yeah.
Killing all these spiders. There's a small little baby spider that just came all the way down. Here's another spider. Oh, where'd it go? Where'd it go? I'm just using this whole can of brake clean. Get rid of all these spiders. I really hope I remember where all these bolts go. I don't have the E36 chassis as memorized as the E46. Oh, spider egg. Okay. Now, drive shaft, and then we can get the transmission down. Pull this down like that. All right. Now get on this side. What? Yeah, that's a grease. Go on this side right here. All right, hold it. Ooh, that center support bearing is trash. Lucky for me, I bought another one, just in case. As promised, whenever we found something, I was gonna record. Bet you won't be able to guess what this came off of. All right, I'll give y'all 3 more seconds. The oil pan. This is the first time I've ever seen this. I've actually broken block bolts from like the bell housing, but I've never actually broken an oil pan, like the ear off of the oil pan. I really don't know how this happened, but we're about to find out. The transmission is pretty much unhooked. So there were actually bolts holding the transmission in place. Most of them were just loose. The only tight ones were the starter bolts. So besides that, we're about to pull the whole transmission off. Part of the slave cylinder, actually the piston of the slave cylinder is stuck in the transmission as well. So hopefully we don't have too big of a trouble trying to pull off the transmission, but we're about to find out in 30 seconds.
I'm putting it in.
All right, lift up. Go down.
You put it down. Push up.
Damn, things are just breaking off. Oh, wow. The whole transmission's broken. I was not expecting that. This fell off of here. It was like that. Wow. Catastrophic. How does that even happen though? I still don't know what the story is behind here. But I really hope that whoever owns this or used to own this car follows this YouTube channel so they can let us know exactly what happened here and why did it go to Copart? How did all of this break? Man. But I guess now what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to find out. Hopefully the clutch is still good. And if it is, we'll luck out because I've got 2 of these transmissions right outside on the trailer from previous part out cars. So funny thing is, quick tip for you guys, the E36 M3s actually use the same ZF 5-speed manual as the ones that are in the E46 330i's, 328s, even the E36 328. So it's easy to find these transmissions. So if yours is broken, it's not that big of a deal. All right, more investigating. Oh no, that clutch is gone. Completely broken, like, wow. Even the pilot bearing is out of here. All right, let's just take it out, see how it looks. Let's see the damage. Oh, the clutch completely separated. So the materials actually, there's still a good amount left. I would say probably like 50%. But this right here, how does that happen? I just don't understand. I mean, somebody had to really launch it in order for this to like really separate like that. Because I mean, the pressure plate and everything actually looks not bad. But now here's the other dilemma. I don't want to spend a lot of money to get this car back up and running. I don't know if I'm gonna like it yet. I've never really driven an E36 M3 for an extended period of time. So I'm trying to figure out what's the cheapest way for me to get this, car back up and running. So now I know I'm gonna have to use one of my transmissions that I have already, but now we also have to figure out a way to get a clutch. These clutches, they're not too expensive. I'd say about 400 bucks. But the problem is, I know most people don't stock it. So if we are able to find somebody that has a used clutch and pressure plate with a good amount of life left in it, we'll do that. Otherwise, worst case scenario, I know I've got a takeoff from another car that I did a clutch replacement on with the flywheel, clutch, pressure plate, all of that. But the problem with that is it's actually from a 330. So the good thing about most BMWs, the bell housing patterns are similar. So from like E36, even E30s, you can use a bunch of the M52, M54, any of those transmissions that are available, and they'll all bolt right up. And we can even actually use that dual mass flywheel from the 330 and the clutch and all that. All that should work properly. Only thing is, I'm not sure if it's going to be able to hold the power from the S50. But I guess we're going to find that out on our road trip. I mean, this pressure plate and stuff is actually not bad though. Like if I could just find a clutch disc, I think I would be able to make it work. Ooh, I think this is bent. Or it might not be. I guess we'll find out when we put it in. So I think this clutch was actually recently replaced though, because like all of this stuff looks pretty new. So this clutch might actually be more than 50%. This might be a new clutch. What if they just put it the wrong way? How did it come out? Did you see it? I know the camera saw it, because that's also a possibility. Someone just did the clutch job, and when they were doing it, they put it the opposite way. So it says jet tree up sight, which means this side needs to go facing the gearbox. And it says motor sight, which means this side faces the engine. So if someone had it flipped like this, they want to go put the transmission back on, and it won't go all the way in. So what they had to do is they had to just tighten those bolts down as hard as they could. That cracked the ear off of the transmission. On this side, it cracked the oil pan. And that might explain everything, because all of this stuff, like the pressure plate, the flywheel, all that stuff actually looks in pretty good condition still. There's no grooves on it. It's got surface rust from sitting, but for the most part, it's all good. Man, hopefully I think I figured it out. Hopefully that's what it is. So, couldn't find an actual S50 pressure plate, flywheel, clutch, none of that. Only thing I had with me was this takeoff 330 pressure plate flywheel, that whole assembly. So all of this came off of someone's car that I actually did a clutch replacement on a long time ago. We converted that to a single mass flywheel, so we had all this used stuff remaining. It's not in that good of a condition, but the clutch itself has probably about 50-60% life left. The flywheel is pretty much shot. Pressure plate has all hot spots all over it as well, just like the flywheel. We did get a new throwout bearing because they had that in stock, but everything else we're just going to reuse. This should definitely last us for the trip. Hopefully it lasts through the spirited driving that I really want to do, you know, burnouts and everything, but we'll see how long it lasts. As long as it makes it to our whole adventure and gets us back home, we should be fine. One thing I did do though is I replaced the pilot bearing as well, because when we took out the transmission that was on here, the pilot bearing literally just fell out. So I went ahead and got a new one of those along with that throwout bearing. So hopefully that should, you know, keep this transmission together. Here's the clutch. Like I said before, it's got about 50% life left in it. A quick and easy way to tell how much life is left in the clutch is you look at the rivets and you look at the material that's left on top of the rivets. So there are official measurements which you can find online. This one, just by the looks of it, I know that it's about halfway worn down. But you can see it still has the grooves and stuff in the friction material. So that's why I'm saying it should last us a little bit of time still. But this pressure plate, it is completely shot. I mean, there's hot spots all over it, and it's not really too grooved up. There's a little groove on the edge. Should be fine. One thing that I am gonna try, you know, do a whole experiment with this is a self-adjusting clutch, because it's got the dual mass flywheel, so you use a self-adjusting clutch with this like it is from factory for the 330s, not on the S50. But on this one, it is a self-adjusting clutch. So what we're gonna end up doing is I'm not gonna reset the pressure plate. So usually whenever you take a pressure plate off of a self-adjusting clutch, you have to reset that pressure plate, the self-adjusting mechanism. So it's loaded with like a little bit of springs, like 3 springs around it that you want to reset. And pretty much what that does, it allows the pressure plate to relearn the location of the clutch. For us, in theory, what I'm thinking is this pressure plate and this clutch and flywheel were all together. So hopefully the self-adjusting mechanism is stored at that point. What I think actually is happening is as soon as you take the pressure plate off, the whole self-adjusting mechanism just shoots to, you know, the maximum, whatever. So we're just gonna see how it works. Hopefully it still engages, and we'll see if, you know, how the clutch and everything feels. That self-adjusting clutch, pretty much what it allows you to do is the pedal feel will remain the same no matter how much the clutch is wearing down. So that's the whole point of that. We'll see how this experiment plays out. So here's a self-adjusting mechanism that I was talking about on the pressure plate. In order to reset it, what you have to do is you want to push these forks, compress them down all the way, and then you're going to push all of these springs and the actual plate anti-clockwise. And as you're doing that, you're going to see these springs compress. Once they're all the way fully compressed, you have to hold that compression and release the pressure plate forks. So it's just a couple, I would recommend doing it with 2 people. It makes it a lot easier. And there are quite a few guides out there online. And BMW actually also makes a special tool to do just that. But with this whole theme of just winging it, getting it done, we're just gonna see how long this lasts and how it feels. I'm really curious because I've never done it this way, where just put, the pressure plate back on. And to be fair, usually whenever I have the transmission off and the pressure plate off, we're putting a whole new clutch assembly in anyways. But if I really end up loving this car after this adventure, all of this stuff is coming off. I mean, the whole car is gonna get gutted. We're gonna clean it up, or whatever we plan to do with it, all of this stuff's gonna come out anyways. Trans is finally in. It took a lot of tries, but we finally got it. The main issue was the clutch disc was just not sitting 100% where it needed to be, even when I used the clutch alignment tool. But we got it squared away. I still gotta hook up the linkage, still gotta do a lot of buttoning stuff up, still gotta change all the fluids, but it's really late now, and I think we literally have about 30 hours before we're planning on leaving. So tomorrow, we're gonna have to hit this really hard, get everything done. Mechanically, we still gotta figure out what we're gonna do about the exhaust. We still have to clean all this up because smells really bad in here. Still gotta change all the filters because there's mouse poop and all that everywhere. But a lot of stuff. We're gonna make a list first thing in the morning, and we'll start knocking everything off one at a time. That way we can leave hopefully the day after tomorrow early in the morning. So this was very late in the evening. I had finally got the exhaust stuff taken care of. So for the exhaust, what we ended up doing, the flange that was broken off near the headers, I had all of that stuff welded up at a muffler shop. And then I actually was able to source a used muffler from one of my buddies at CES Motorsports. So they sold us a muffler that goes off of a stock E36 M3, and I was able to just bolt that in since the rest of the stuff was still intact. So that pretty much helped us out because we were able to get all that stuff situated without having to do, too much stuff to the exhaust that was already there. So it's like past midnight, and I had to actually end up changing those engine mounts because the transmission was resting on this reinforcement bar. So we got the new engine mounts in. I look like a mess. It's past midnight, and we were supposed to be leaving around 5 a.m., so in about 5 hours. Still gotta put the interior back together. I gotta do a few other things as well, like putting the windshield wiper arm on, changing the wipers out, checking all the fluids, and then actually turn it on for the first time with all the work done. We haven't test driven it at all yet. I also ended up changing the differential fluid. I do want to change the coolant out, but I want to do that outside because it does make usually a lot more of a mess, and I want to use the water hose to flush everything out. But we'll see if we get to that. Otherwise, we will just hit the road and then see what happens. But yeah, let me bring the car back down and start working on the top now. So I was checking the belts before we did our first startup, and I noticed that there was some melted rubber on the alternator pulley. But I remember when I first turned the car on just to see if the engine would run, that was about 2 days ago, I remember that the battery light was on as well on the dash. So I took the belt off all the way, and then I started messing with the alternator pulley. And guess what? It is completely stuck, like it won't even move. So that belt, when I had turned it on the other day, it was just spinning on that alternator pulley, and that's why it was melting. So we're still at home, a couple hours later than we wanted to be, but now at least, we avoid one failure, and that probably would have caused the belt to shred within less than a mile probably, because that pulley is completely seized up. So lucky for us, we can go and order that alternator and we'll get it swapped out. Yeah, I told them that the alternator was stuck. It took us like 5 hours to find an alternator. We finally got one. It's 140 amp. So the one that was in here was an 80 amp. So I bought a 140 amp as an upgrade. I can't help it. I mean, I'm not trying to spend a lot of money. I'm not trying to make it right, but kind of wanted to make it a little bit right, especially if I do end up loving this car. This would have been an upgrade I would have done eventually. So I had to buy a new alternator regardless. The 80 amp one was half the price of this one, but they didn't have it in stock. So we got the 140 amp. Installing it right now. One thing I didn't know is you need to have a longer bolt. So it's a very good thing that I noticed this before we were on the road trip, because where would I have found a long metric bolt like that? Home Depot doesn't stock it, Lowe's doesn't stock it, but lucky for me, I had it stocked here. But yeah, so right now, just getting the alternator put back together, then I can put everything else back on, and then we can finally see if it's gonna run, and if it's gonna run right. So, a couple more minutes, and we should be ready to figure everything out. Oh yeah, it ain't going nowhere. Just finished putting the alternator in. That was actually pretty quick. It took me less than 10 minutes. It took me longer to find the alternator, but now we're about to turn it on. I'm not gonna let it run for too long. I'm just gonna turn it on, let the clutch out, make sure the wheels are spinning. That way we can take it off of the lift. Here it goes. Oh, the keys. Oh, they're right here. I got them. I gotta take my shoes off because Selena's brother cleaned the crap, literally all the crap out of here. It's super clean. Still smells, but. Ready? Oh, why the clutch feel so soft all of a sudden? Is the engine moving when I push the clutch in? All right, here it goes. It's running. All right, tell me if the wheels move. Ready? They're moving? All right, we good. Let's hit the road. Time to go.
What you mean, that's it?
What you mean? That's our test drive. It's time to go. Or not test drive, that was our test startup. All right, so what I really wanna do right now, we're gonna fog the inside because it still smells really bad. So we got one of these like air freshener fogger things. But for that, we have to make sure the car's not overheating because I have the AC on. I'm gonna open the door, pull the car out, turn the AC on, and see how everything handles. All right, let's do it. Can you believe this is the first time it's gonna move under its own power since we bought it? We had to push it onto the 18-wheeler when we moved here from California because it wasn't running. So we had to like do a whole push start. Like it was like we had to go on the hill, get it all up on the 18-wheeler, and then man, we finally got it to the Carolinas. We had to push it in onto our ramp. Me and Selena were struggling to get it up here, but we finally got it. All right, we got enough stuff to talk about on the road trip. Is it rubbing on that? So what was it rubbing on then? All right, first test drive. Let's see how she does. I think it's rubbing in the back, but I'm not sure. It could just be all the bushings and stuff. The AC works, kinda. Brakes work, but the ABS light is on. Not sure why. I feel like the brakes are dragging on one of the calipers. Yeah. The AC stopped working, right? It's not cold. Yeah, it's not cold. I think it just needs to be recharged. I don't know why the ABS light is on though. And there's a check control that says brake lights failure. All right, so this is a test drive before we actually go on the road trip. I still gotta pack all of my tools. We still gotta do all of that. Put some cameras right here. Put the rear view mirror on somehow. And I think we're gonna have to go buy some cans to recharge the AC. It drives pretty good. All right, back to the house. All right, so it just started misfiring whenever I step on it. I think it might just be because of the gas, and also made a weird noise with the power steering. And I know I had to top it up, So hopefully it's not leaking out. I don't see anything behind me, but yeah, it's definitely misfiring now. I don't have my wallet, so we can't even fill up gas. Let's go back to the house, pack everything up. We're gonna need some AC refrigerant to recharge this. We'll fill up gas, figure out the misfire. Hopefully it's just the gas. So we got everything packed up and we even filled up some gas. And right now it was still misfiring at this point, but eventually as we kept driving, it cleared out. And then we decided to stop by a Walmart to get some AC refrigerant because it was super hot and humid, and they actually fixed it. It was just took a couple of cans of AC refrigerant, and then we had ice cold AC. The rest of the drive was pretty uneventful. Nothing really happened, and it started getting dark, but most of it was just trees, so we really didn't film too much of it. But here are just some rolling clips of once we actually got on the road.
Alright, so it's my first time in the car and stuff is already going wrong.
But yeah, so as soon as she got in here, the right turn signal stopped working. So left turn signal still works. So I'm almost positive it's the emergency signal thing. Yeah, it's either the emergency signal, the flasher, the hazards. It's either that or the relay that's in the engine compartment. One of those just went out. Oh man, the joys of owning an E36, huh? We're about to take an exit, so I'll give her a little bit of a freeway run. It ain't that fast, but the E36, it feels very heavy. I'm gonna do a full review tomorrow during the day.
Take exit 196 AB.
Yeah, so I'll do a full review of my thoughts, my initial reactions of driving it and everything tomorrow when we are, driving during the day. Yeah, see, it ain't that fast. And that was a 4th gear pull too.
Keep
so it's
left
not
at the fork.
It's not like I was in 5th gear.
We'll record it better tomorrow. Alright.
And she's also sick, so that's why we're kind of been slacking on the content for, finishing
Continue
up
for 3/4
my
of a
God.
mile.
So when we were finishing up the whole car, she's been sick the whole time, so that's why it was filmed very good at the beginning, and then that same night she started getting sick, so then all the quality and content went downhill from there. So you'll see me on a tripod struggling to put the exhaust up. I'm sure you guys already saw that actually. But yeah, so that was all because she was sick, so I had to go back to being a one-man show and didn't work out too well. But hey, we're here, we're on the road in the E36.
And I mean, there was a huge change of plans, which was where we're actually going, but
we'll talk all about that tomorrow, all right? I think we're gonna cut it out tonight unless something, surprising or eventful happens.
yeah, we still have to drive like 3 more hours and then
3 hours to our destination for the evening, and we're gonna go to sleep. Good morning, everyone. First full day of the whole road trip. So we're just getting out of the hotel. I'm about to do all my morning checks, see how everything is. I didn't even check the oil yesterday. We drove it about 320 or 30 miles. So I need to check tire wear, need to check all the fluids, make sure nothing else is leaking out, and most of all, make sure the car turns back on. This is the first time that, the battery's been hooked up, we've driven it, and it's sat overnight. So a lot of variables. Let's just start looking at everything one by one. I gotta get my bar of gold, hold on. One thing that is yet to grow on me is a coupe. Not a big fan of coupes, as most of you guys already know, but it's growing on me. Which one should we start with first? Oil you can't really check until the car is warmed up, but you'll get an idea if it's filled up or not. So we'll check that. So far on the trip, we have not had any overheating or anything like that, any of those problems. When we did the first test drive out of the shop, we did have issues with the power steering system, and that was because the pressure line hose was kinked at Copart. I guess when they were picking it up with the fork, they kinked it. So I did my best to unkink it with some pliers, and I think we did the trick because we haven't had any issues. We haven't had any issues since we've been driving. So oil is definitely all right. Hasn't burned any, and it hasn't leaked any. Power steering, do I really want to get my hand dirty? We'll leave it. Coolant, I think the coolant level sensor in here is not working right, because it's saying that we're low but we are definitely not. It still smells funky like the first time, but it should be all right. Now, one thing I definitely want to check is the tires, because the tires that came with it, one tire was showing wires, only one, because of excessive camber wear, and that was on the back. But hopefully those were just, you know, they just put those wheels back on before they sent the car to the auction. But we're still gonna check everything, make sure it's all good. So the wheels that we put on had all good tires on it, but I was talking about the wheels that came with the car when we got it from the auction. It's not camber wear. It's not bad, but I had to keep my eye on it. I think this tire might have already had some camber wear, because these have been our OG road trip wheels. So whenever we were going from California to LA when we first moved out, these were the wheels that were on the car. So these wheels have seen a lot. One of them is actually kind of bent, but for the most part, we've got two brand new tires in the front. The back two tires are probably around 50% tread left. And these wheels are actually the first ever wheels, aftermarket wheels, that I bought when I was like 17. And they are some replica aftermarkets of the Vogue TE37s. Not sure of the brand. I just know the size is 17 by 8.5. Yes, I just had a double check. That's why I looked down there. I don't know the offsets or anything like that. But somehow, it kind of worked out perfect for this, because the offsets fit the E36 so well. No rubbing. And I mean, yes, it's not completely flush, but it's very close to it. So I'm actually very happy with how these came out. Definitely not gonna stay on there long term if we decide to do whatever we decide to do with the car. But for right now, it should definitely make the rest of the road trip enjoyable. And it actually doesn't look bad, so. Time to check the rest of the tires, and then we're gonna hit the road for breakfast. So we just noticed that the mic was not fully plugged in, and I was just talking normally because I wasn't trying to be obnoxious at 8 in the morning. So hopefully you guys can hear what I said about all the rest of the stuff that happened just before this. But now we got it fixed, so the rest of the trip should be all right. Anyways, as I was saying, I think the most important accessory for all of my road trips is this right here, the radar. So this specific radar, my fiance actually got me for Christmas, but I've always used the Valentine one. I do like this one as well. It's a Uniden R7, the extreme long range one. And it does work really well. It does have a lot less false alarms as opposed to the Valentine one. But overall, I mean, I like the digital readout. I like how it tells you your speed. It's got GPS connectivity as well. It's a very good radar. But that's not what y'all are here for. We're about to have the first startup. Let's see what happens. First startup of the day. Oh, starts up like a champ. Not even cold start misfires? Wow, I'm impressed, honestly. All right, let's hit the road. All right, our first car wash. Let's see what water comes in from. Hopefully we walk away with the full car still. Nothing falls off. Oh, I could feel my paint getting scratched, but too bad it's already really scratched out. Oh, you heard that?
Our window fell off. Our mirror fell off.
The mirror broke. Damn it.
We got duct tape.
And it's still here.
No, I saw it hanging there.
But what about the other brushes? Still there. Oh man. Oh my goodness. That's so disappointing. I thought like the weather strip in the back or something would have fell off.
Well, we still don't know.
Oh, the floors. Can I just open the door and get it?
Nah, you're fine. Ooh, that feels soft.
Yeah.
Oh wow, the windshield actually looks cleaner.
Yeah, it actually does.
What the heck? No braking, keep moving.
No green light. Oh, I think it was blinking. I'm over here trying to find the green light down there, but it's flashing up
I
there.
thought I was looking at the camera.
The lady's like, these kids are clueless. I mean, we never go through car washes like that.
No.
Should I vacuum? Nah. We just got our first car wash and the mirror fell off. Let's see how bad it is. Oh, that's not bad. I think it just popped out. Oh. Can you hold the door?
I don't know why you just didn't close it.
All right, it popped back in. We're good. But that's crazy. I thought we lost the mirror for sure. It's all good.
We're in Florida.
Back with the palm trees. After 1,300 miles and 4 long days, this Euroventure is coming to an end.
With some success.
Some success.
I don't know.
A lot of failure. I think the failure is on the whole premise of this video.
Yeah.
So the premise of this video was we were going to fix this E36 M3 as quickly and as cheaply as possible. And then we were going to road trip it, 1,000+ miles just to see how everything feels. And we were hoping stuff would break so we would be fixing it along the way and get content.
But I guess you were too good, huh? You fixed it too well.
Too well. And then, I think we started this whole Euroventure off on a I guess a bad omen, because she got sick after the first day of filming. And she was really sick. She's still
really
sick.
Yeah, really sick.
Yeah. But she's getting better.
Not COVID or anything.
Yeah.
I just had a really bad cold.
But, so it started off like that. But I guess I fixed it way too well because nothing broke. And it's really not that quick. So it's not like we can do burnouts and, do...
Oh, we tried.
We did try.
Let me insert the clips right here. We tried.
We tried. I didn't rev it out too much because I know that this clutch will probably break apart. And see, that's probably a fault of mine, is I know how everything works and I know how much time and effort goes into fixing things. So subconsciously, I don't end up doing stuff that's gonna hurt the car. Man.
Yep.
But over the last 1,300 miles, that's how much we've driven it so far. We still got 3 hours left to go. But we have driven it pretty hard. It's got a lot of weight in it. We've got enough tools to rebuild the whole car in the back. We've been driving it through some crazy roads, a lot of potholes. We took it to Georgia, then we took it to Florida on the Gulf side, so Tampa Bay, Clearwater. We drove it across Florida through Orlando, Daytona Beach. We took it to the Daytona International Raceway on the outside. We didn't go inside. I wish we could.
It was raining.
So much rain. Florida, I don't know what's wrong with Florida. It rains at least once an hour.
We thought North Carolina was bad with its bipolar weather, but Florida is on another level.
Florida's so much worse. And it's so humid. So I think the only thing that actually went wrong on the car, or the only thing I guess I didn't end up fixing, was the AC. So we ended up fixing that within the first 30 minutes of driving the car. Mm-hmm. And it's been ice cold ever since. And we sat in traffic with the AC full blast, in like 90+ degree weather in Tampa. Didn't overheat at all. I mean, the coolant needle has been dead center the whole time. We haven't burnt any oil. I've been checking the oil, checked the tires. Tires have been wearing pretty good. I mean, everything has just been going right, which is crazy.
I mean, we're still not home, but so far, everything.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to do a burnout, and obviously that didn't happen. I'm sure I can make it happen, but I will probably end up breaking something if I do make it happen.
So we'll probably do it closer to home.
Exactly.
Yeah, it just sucks that I got sick, man.
I know.
That kind of ruined everything.
It really did. I mean, our original plan was to go to Texas. Drive into Texas, and then do all of the Texas coast stuff, like Houston, places that we haven't been in Texas. And that didn't happen because, I mean, it wasn't only her fault for getting sick. I mean, I guess it wasn't her fault at all for getting sick, but it was also because we had other issues that happened with the car as far as the alternator, and we couldn't source that in time. So that put us back almost a full 12 hours in terms of our timeline. But, you know, one thing I urge anybody, honestly, I think this trip, it really helps you learn about the car. I mean, how you feel about the car, and you learn so much about the car just driving it. And being able to go through different, you know, roads, different states have different kinds of roads and just different atmospheres. It, you know, you really get a good feel for if you're gonna like the car or not.
And I think this is the first time we've ever road tripped a coupe, right?
Yes. This is the first time we've driven a coupe over like more than a day.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have any coupes.
Yep. I mean, and to be honest, we don't really love it.
I don't love coupes. I hate coupes. They're just not practical. I mean, we had to bring a whole nother car. We were going to use that car as our camera car and to go fetch parts when stuff was supposed to break, but it didn't. But if we hadn't brought that car, we have two other people, her siblings, her brother and her sister. If we hadn't brought that car, this trip would have ended 3 days ago. The first day we would have driven somewhere like 4 hours, and then we would have drove right back, because this is not comfortable at all for more than 2 people. So I don't think the E36 would be a good daily unless your daily route consists of just you and driving not that far, because it's really not that comfortable. Everything squeaks, everything rattles, and I mean, I guess it is an older car, that's why it does that, but I think most E36s do that.
Yeah, but it would be a good track car.
It would be an amazing track car. And I mean, it feels very nimble, even with some of this worn suspension. It's really tight. I mean, it feels really good. So I think that is definitely something to consider. But I mean, I really want an E36 M3, like a clean E36 M3.
Yeah.
So this is like the crossroads. It can become a very clean E36 M3, and it can also be a very good track car. So we'll leave it up to you guys. Maybe not. I might not end up making it clean, but what do you guys think we should do? Should we make it a track car, or should we clean it up and make it back into a clean example of an E36 M3? And with that, I leave you guys with this Euroventure. Comment down below on what car we should do next. You know, I want to keep it cheap. That's the whole point of this. Something cheap, something we can actually still find that's not super rare. And hopefully, if you guys have any suggestions of any cars that you guys know of, feel free to message me on Instagram with the post or a listing for it, and we might make that our next Euroventure car.
But there will still be videos on this car.
Yes.
We'll figure something out, DIYs, anything, or a formal car review or common problems, etc., etc.
There's so much content that we can make on this car, and we will. Now that it's on the road, registered and insured.
Yep, because we do not plan on selling it.
Yep, well, we're definitely not going to sell it. So that's it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed our Euroventure, and we will see you guys in our next one.